Well, this is a good morning. I had a little bit of a dilemma last night of doing this Full Circle Refuge weekly update. But I think we got it now. We just went back to the old school way of I'm always trying to be innovative, try new things, geeky. But again, this is Devin Harris, Full Circle Refuge. Just giving this weekly update. We started this a couple weeks ago and it's been beneficial for our prayer warriors, our supporters, our volunteers, to know how to pray, what's been going on a weekly basis, and in Full Circle Refuge, what's the interactions we've had this week. And so this is kind of the end of the month, so things kind of slow down. And we're at that point now. We're going into a new month. We're looking forward to that. But we had a couple things this week that we were involved in. One of the things is just thank you for going to our YouTube channel, our podcasts, where we're putting out actually the Full Circle Refuge monthly update, just like our prayer letter. It's in video format now. And then we had two podcasts, or actually two formats that are going out weekly on a Tuesday, alternating Who Am I Identity Crisis of You Today? And this week it was Who Am I Identity Crisis of You Today? Why Gang Life Was Better Than School. This is going to probably be a 4-part podcast because there's a lot packed in this, a lot of information over the years that we've learned and we actually have implemented into our interventions with young men specifically that are entertained by gangs, fascinated, or in a cultic mind think they're a gang member. So that's going out every other Tuesday. The first part went out this week. And the week before that, it was Act Like Men for Real. And the subject was why. And next one will be coming up this Tuesday, Lord willing. Act Like Men for Real. We'll see what the topic is going to be that Tuesday evening, going out probably Wednesday morning. And of course, we do this on a weekly basis. We have to please subscribe, share on your social media. Yes, I'm at the Refuge in the Full Circle Refuge cubby hole. That's what we call it, the cubby hole, at our home, our forever home. But this week we had some eventful things going on. First of all, we had the opportunity to go, which we get to go now once a month, to Wilkes RYDC, which has changed about the 1st of July to what we call a transition facility. And that's basically for young men that have about 90 to 180 days left before they're released. And most of these guys who did long-term time, and that's 2 to 5 years, non-7 deadly sins law crime. That means juvenile crime only. So they're about to max out. They're in their 17, 18, and 19, and maybe even 20 years old. And so this facility's been specifically been set up for them to get tools for their release. But I'm telling you, it's a hard thing. It's actually something like this needs to start probably 6 to within a year out from their release. Preparing them, getting their mind set for that and putting that in that position. So we had the opportunity, myself and Rick, one of our volunteers with the fancy mustache, we got to travel there to meet with about 8 to 10 young men. Some knew me over the years. Some had not seen me in a long time. They've grown up a little bit. Some have met us for one time in one of our Christmas events that we do throughout the month of December. And that's pretty amazing. They remembered Miss Sun. They remember the Swedish meatballs. They remember the nachos and cheese, the sweets. They remember the delightful Christmas punch that Son puts together that they're just really excited about. And some remember the encouragement cards that we have many folks throughout the month of December write a personal note to a young person. And I'm telling you what, these things are of God because these encouragement cards have impacted kids. Some kids over the years have told me that I still have that same card in my room. I read it on a weekly basis. So if you're interested in that, Right after Thanksgiving, we'll be making that announcement, of course, right here on our YouTube channel, how you can get this resource. And it's a simple thing. You can write a quick note, a small verse, maybe a quote. Or if you have the artistic abilities and can write and draw, that would be even better, you know. So look for that in the coming months. So some of these kids remember us like that. And so we have a conversation there, and we're trying to really break the ice and develop a relationship real quick. And it's it's really a drive-by packed in 1 degree at a time in probably 30 minutes just to plant a seed, which is not enough. I'm telling you, this is not enough. We would love to be there on a weekly basis or more than just once a month. That's a matter of prayer right now. Please be praying for that the doors are open for us to be there on a weekly basis, to speak life and bring awareness of God in their life. Because one of the things we found out over the years, and we've seen the benefits of this in the kids, young men, young adults that we work with now that we met when they were teenagers. One of the things, let me get a cup of coffee over here. I like my coffee in the morning. I'm drinking out of my favorite cup, a Minute Man coffee cuppy. There's nothing special about the coffee. It's just good old Sam's Folgers coffee. Kind of black, you know, because I was in the military, so I like to make it heavy duty. So that's our go-to in the morning. But since I'm doing this to keep my voice kind of clear, I needed that sip. Where was I? Okay, well, we found out one of the things that really works is we designed something years ago, and we actually offered it to DJJ, but it didn't go very far. We found out 3 things if a young person, when they're released from Department of Juvenile Justice, if they can apply these things within 6 months of their release, while they're out in the free world with home, they can apply a job, continue work, legit work, money in their pocket, that's what we call it, continue education. Knowledge is power. Education is an equalizer. And the thing that resonates this whole thing, that solidifies it, is a home church that's accountable to them. This community. Community is so key to cutting down this recidivism. You know, even the other day, I probably quoted this before, but I believe it was on Fox News. I saw it on social media that juvenile crime nationally is increasing. Well, church, this is a solution. There's a solution here, and it's what we're doing. It is what we are doing. Again, you know, at Augusta RYDC, which is local to the CSRA, the community of Augusta, there's 60 plus young men out there. They're in need of a man coming and speaking life to them on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis, or just once a month. We are soliciting you. We need you. We need men. You don't have to have any special skills. Not at all. You are already successful. All right? You are already successful. Don't matter if you're young or old. Don't matter if you're old as dirt. You still have something to offer these young men. So going back to Wilkes RYDC, the 3 things is what we're trying to apply. But 30 minutes of speaking to them is hard, because they're already set in their ways. They have pipe dreams of what it's going. They envision when they're released. That's what they do. They don't have it written on paper. Dangerous point there. Dangerous place. Nothing is in place. They're just thinking about. They actually think what's going to happen, that when they got locked up 2 or 3 years or 5 years ago, whatever it was, that their community, their world, the free world, stopped. And when they come back to their free world, it kicks in again, right where it started off. Well, it doesn't. We know that. It's evolving. It's changing. And so what they do is they try to get back into that world and move really fast at an escalated speed to catch back to normalcy. You know, they want self-worth. They don't want to be defined as being locked up that many years. They want to have that hustle on the streets, and they think that's what defines them. Now, there's some that really have a good focus. I had a conversation with another man a couple months ago, and he had been locked up 4 years in the same facility. And I go, what has this done for you? He said, well, Pastor Devin, when I first got here, I was bucking and screaming. Just didn't want to be part of this. It was not going to be me, he said. But over these 4 years, I've learned myself. I learned who I am. I learned I need to be patient. I matured. I think I'm ready to be released. I said, man, that was deep. That was really deep. There's hope for you because you defined it like that. You defined it. You didn't tell me these other things that these young men just told me this week. Matter of fact, I was talking about the things that you need to do within the 2 weeks of your release. First thing you need to get is, of course, get home and eat mama's cooking. You know, mama's cooking is the best thing in the world, you know. And the next thing is you might want to kiss your girl, and they kind of snicker at that. They thinking of other things. And then the next thing is you need to get some kind of form of ID, either a driver's license, which takes a little bit more legwork to get to, but a ID. So you can get to work, you can do your continuing education. You don't need a car yet. You know, you can walk, bicycle, or you can catch a ride. This is not forever. This is temporary. You don't need a cell phone. And when I said that, man, they just bucked. What do you mean? What do you mean? How am I going to get it? Well, you know, I need it. My phone's going to be waiting for me when I get out the gate. You know, see, culturally, we have changed what's important to us today. You know, everybody probably watching this video has a cell phone. You know, it is part of our life today. It is. I mean, how did we ever do without that long time ago? You know, it's pretty amazing. You know, but they were really rallying herd mentality against me when I stated that. But there was a few in there that was focused, quiet focus. That quiet lion is listening. How to be a king, a true king. You know, so it was interesting to say that to them and challenge. But I went around the room and I asked, what are your goals? What are you going to do? It was so broad, and it was just off the top of their head. It was not in their heart. One guy said, I'm going to get my CDL. I'm going to become an electrician. I'm going to continue my education, blah, blah, blah. See, that's just too many barriers there that this young man has put in front of him. And it's really a fear factor that's happening. It's a fear factor that's happening in his life that it's actually scary. I even stated to him, when you're locked up because of the design of institutionalized, you're only making an average about 20 decisions a day. Everybody else is making your decision. When you get released, there's about an average of 120 decisions a day that you have to make, and it gets overwhelming. There's so many other things that you have to decide. You know, you have to decide so many things, and it becomes like it's not safe in that being locked up. And I know this sounds weird. Being locked up is more of a safety net than being in the free world. And that's the vulnerability. They don't want to get locked up, but they need to come back to that normalcy in their life, that self-worth, and it's dangerous without plans in place, without them 3 things in place, and accountability. I even give them my business card, and I said, when you get out after that 2 weeks, give me a call, text, whatever, and we'll make time in my schedule. I'll come to your community, and myself and you will break bread at a fine restaurant. And they go, you do that? I say, yep. And then we'll talk about these 3 things. I do get some calls. I do get some texts. I do get to follow through with a conversation with them and sit down. And that's when it's a lot different than being locked up around their peers. A reality check kicks in. And that's what we want to be. So that's a matter of prayer for these young men. Please pray for these young men. Some are getting out before I get back there next month. So pray for these young men. The last thing this week, we got the opportunity to do our second session of 1 Degree at a Time, ODAT, in Richmond County, Georgia. That's Augusta, Georgia. These kids are court-ordered kids to our program, and it's an alternative to maybe give them some tools to make it. And all the kids that are involved in 1 Degree at a Time are fascinated with gangs or affiliated with gangs or deep-seated in gangs. And these are teenagers. Well, yesterday we had a great conversation. My assistants were there. That's Juquan Brooks and Mark Davis. Juquan, you know, he's up and coming already. He is not an up and coming. He is a successful author at 25 years old now, and he's come alongside us to instill truths into these young men. Of course, Mark Davis, I've known him since he was 10. He's 33. He had some tough times, but he's speaking life to these young men, even with his setbacks and his disabilities that he has. He's speaking life, and these young men are listening. You know, the old dude, I'm plowing through things, the culturally things, but these young guys are helping me. But we had some deep conversations yesterday, but it hurts my heart. Some of the kids were telling me what they're dealing with. You know, Mr. Devin, this is the only way. You know, this is all we've been offered. You know, we want to go legit. We want to be an entrepreneur. We want to be a real estate. We want to have our own clothing line. We want to do this, you know, but they're very limited. And this is another thing I plead with the community of Augusta, you know, to come alongside us with these young men. Here's another thing for you fellas out there, you football kings and whatever, you know, got the jersey. You know, I get on my hobby horse about this. There ain't nothing wrong with football, but it ain't everything. You have something to give back to this community. You do. And these young men need to hear from you. They need to hear from you. This is the most inspiring thing in my life, to speak life to these young men. As a 64-year-old man, it makes me feel I have worth in this in life. I have worth. Other than what God has did in my life, this is powerful to me, to speak to a teenager and give them life instead of sitting there sucking up suds watching a football game on Saturday or whatever. You know, you have opportunity, and it only takes maybe 1 or 2 hours of your time a week. What is that to 4 or 5 hours of overtime of football? I'll get off this hobby horse. You know, it's my passion. These youth need us. Remember, juvenile crime is increasing nationally. If we don't step and be proactive about this, it will be at our door. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? I get off that hobby horse too. Well, this is what's been happening this week. Please pray for these young men throughout the weekend. Of course, it's a long weekend. And this is one of those special weekends where, like, a lot of people like to have cookouts, barbecues. But the problem in culturally happens is people start drinking, and then people start running their mouths, and then somebody wants to pop off. And I pray that these young men are not in the center fire, the drive-bys of this situation. That's my prayer. We want to keep them so they can make it through the 5 weeks to what we call the rites of passage to manhood celebration dinner. That'll happen in a couple weeks, and we'll be talking about that. We want them to be changed the way they think and act, 1 degree at a time. That's what this is all about. So that's what we have this today. Let me get another sip of coffee as we finish up, and I hope your Friday is going well whenever this video gets uploaded. But let me get some more coffee. I'm not doing it in advertise, but it is a good coffee company. I tried one. It's kind of expensive for me, but I'll stay with my regular coffee. Yeah, that's good. And with that, I want to say thank you for watching. Again, subscribe, share with your sphere of influence. Let people know what God is doing in Full Circle Refuge. Remember what we're about, to see Jesus transform the lives of juvenile offenders and at-risk youth, period. That's it. So thank you. Thank you for listening, watching. There it is. I'm a loss for words. God bless.